Hi everyone, this is the third video in this series which I'll be showing you and talking to you about repotting, media and watering. The basic potting media we use in Hoyas are charcoal, perlite, vermiculite, lava rock, zeolite, leca, cocoa husk, cocoa peat, organic compost and fern root. There are many as per preference, but these are the main that I can think of. My main belief of growing this genus is to give all conditions needed for an epiphytic growth habit. And I am currently at a stage where I only utilize my own potting mixes and organic fertilizer for Hoyas, which has proven its success. Cocoa peat. Cocoa peat is the pith of the coconut husk, which naturally is antifungal. The main reason that cocoa peat is used in mass production of plants as the sole potting media. When we suit it for Hoyas, adding perlite would make it a great airy potting medium, or you can use one of these as the sole media. It is the best media to use in extreme humid conditions. Cocoa peat has to dry off before watering again, but not bone dry. Continuous rain is equally detrimental to Hoyas in cocoa peat since it doesn't get the chance to dry out. This is also where you introduce fungus and root rot to plants. Therefore, pick a suitable potting media for your growth space, watering habits and weather. How to know the correct time for watering for sure? Let's say you recently repotted a Hoya or an aroid into cocoa peat or cocoa husk. The first sign of dryness is in the top layer, drying out due to surface airflow. However, do not take this as a sign to water your plant since there might be sufficient water inside the medium for 2 or 3 more days. The weight of the pot will also tell you if it needs water or not. However, a day or two of not watering is not harmful, but a week of not watering is harmful to the plant. The plant itself has various reservoirs of nutrients in their structures, but it is not advisable to let a plant go into a dehydration state of shock where all systems shut off because of cell damage of the plant because you didn't water it. Therefore, it's better to gauge your plant's needs from the time you repot, which enables you to consistently care for your plants. Let's talk about lava rock and charcoal. This is my all-time favorite potting medium, which has a very good ability of water retention and drying up, and these are the least degrading materials out of all potting medium I have used. Now I will tell you how I utilize different sizes of media for my Hoyas. Whether large or small leafed, I use small to medium grade lava rock and charcoal mixed in equal ratios and with a bit of fern root as my potting mixture for all Hoyas. I even use cocoa husk sometimes as the sole media, and I will show you how I repot 5 small leafed Hoyas I have bought the last evening. So guys, my preference is to repot ASAP I bring them home since all are found in country, but if you fly them in from another country, you need to give it a week of acclimation time before repotting to reduce its transplant shock. These were in total cocoa husks. I knew the media was too old by the looks of it. These also had the pots all covered up in moss, dark media, which indicated it's not drying off. The insides of the media had mold growing in it, which also could have been root mealies. Therefore, all the medium was removed and washed. For extra precaution, I diluted hydrogen peroxide with water and further washed the roots of all these plants before repotting. Now I'll tell you how I prepare my media. I have stored my media in separate storage bins, but before I use them, I will wash them thoroughly under a tap and then would soak it in a light bleaching solution to get rid of any remaining pests or their eggs, and then dry the plant so the plant will be ready for repotting. And this is how I prepare my cocoa husks. When I get the cocoa husk, the first thing I would do is to soak it overnight and drain the water, and keep repeating this process for a few more days to get rid of the dye in the husk, because the dye is said to be very acidic for the roots, and you can squeeze out the excess water from the cocoa husk and get it ready for repotting. However, I have also repotted plants in unwashed cocoa husk, so therefore in my experience this dye has not created any problem for the roots of my Hoya. However, this tends to stain your toe tiles, so therefore that is the main reason that I wash off all the dye as much as possible. Using the same light bleaching solution, I washed all the cups that I will be repotting. This is just a basic practice which I do just to rid of anything unwanted from getting into my plants. And let's watch the repotting. So this is going to be the media, and they are medium sized, and I've only added a small amount at the bottom. If you like to, you can add some leca, right? So this would only create extra aeration at the bottom of the pot. So then you can first take your plant. I will show the easiest. I will show two plants being repotted in this video, and I will also show another that I will be repotting in cocoa husk. So here first you have to inspect your plant and see if the roots are okay, or if the roots are too long, if there's root rot going on, because you need to give it special care if there is root rot, and especially if you are converting something into a semi-hydro method, there should be no particles of cocoa husk on the roots. So therefore you should be very careful to remove all existing old medium from your potting media. If it's charcoal or leca or lava rock stuck to this, it's no problem, because it's not a degrading material. So therefore you can let that be without forcing it, because normally when you force lava rock out of your roots, the roots tend to tear. But as I've told you earlier, this was in a total cocoa husk mix which was degrading, and the plant was in a 2-inch pot like this. So I will create the same style here also, just to keep this inside the pot, because there's a growth here which is supporting this to stay inside the pot. So once you place this correctly in the pot, you can see that there's one leaf inside. So without burying that totally, you have to bury all the roots up until the bottom, right? So here I go. I will use some of the media from this, and I will get the rest of my media. So for the time being, these 4 will be removed, and I will place this. So in this medium, you saw in the other pots that there were some of these. These are fern root. These I harvested from bird's nest fern. So these tend to hold water as well as dry off very quickly. So I will place some here because I am changing this into a semi-hydro method, but I will add some here because I need something to hold on to some moisture if in case I decide to dry this, because now that you are repotting this into a total semi-hydro method or whatever, this is a total different method. This requires close monitoring because semi-hydro is water. It's continuous water and moisture inside the pot, so therefore you have to be very careful at first. I would suggest you give a wet and dry cycle before you totally try to grow this in a semi-hydro setup. Once you see new root growth, you can totally say that this is okay to go on a full semi-hydro setup. So I'm adding and making sure that all the medium fall inside the cracks without air gaps. You can manually do this using a chopstick. I prefer to do this like this, and I am making sure that this leaf is not gonna be buried, but a little bit of media from here and there is okay as long as it's not restricted. So there are some roots here, guys, because the vine has rooted from several places, which I will also try to insert into the media so that will grow safely. When you do this, there is extra stability to your plant, and you can end with moss and lava rock and charcoal mixed media, which is very smaller than what you started with. So that is why I start with a medium size, then end with small size media. So here I will pick and choose the media that I will drop into the cup. Like this, I will be adding the smallest. If it is too much of charcoal, that's fine. Don't worry about that, because you can grow Hoyas in charcoal only also, which I have tried and I have succeeded. But what I just said has to be adhered, because this needs to be watched until they root. There are small gaps, so I am in the process of inserting media, and there's the root inside there, so I will insert more media. Finally, some of these smaller sized pebbles will be added. And afterwards you have to give this a thorough flush, so all the excess will fall off. Excess dust and all that has to be washed off. But when you start watering also this will happen. You can go ahead and water straight away also. I will do that, as you see now. As I've just told you also, I am not gonna leave this to dehydrate or anything like that. I will watch the water that I'm giving it, but I will be watering it, because I do not want this to go into a shock or any kind of problem of leaf drop due to dehydration, because I need this to thrive. And since I am giving a new media, I will be careful to hold this steady while it roots. So after it roots, you can remove these pebbles also, no problem. But until this roots, you have to hold it down, and you shouldn't shake it, you shouldn't see how it's doing, you should not be like meddling with it, quite frankly. You have to just let this take care of its own rooting and stabilizing in the pot. This is Hoya incrustata variegata, and as you see, this has grown with a huge gap here. So I'm just placing it here, and there are so many long roots. There must have been a root rot going on here. Right? So therefore, what I'll do is I will be taking off from here, right? And the plant is healthy. You can see the sap that is coming out of it. And if you inspect this, there are too many roots. So therefore, I will take off some of these, because I don't need all of that. The plant will be creating new rooting, and at the same time there can be several cuttings of this, but for the time being I'm gonna let this be. So I will make one more cut from here, take off some of these roots more, and as you see, this root is quite long. So what would happen is, part of this would die off and it will be left with the needed So since this is too long for repotting into the media, I will take off from here, right? And so now I have a few cuttings for this plant. The sap will not get all over the place, it will just dry off, so you don't need to worry about it. And I will root all these up in one pot. And here also, since it's too long, right, but there's a root over here, I'll try to use it as much as possible, and I will take off from here. So before potting, I will add some more media into this, and I need some fern root. As an extra layer of moisture in the pot, and I will place this and add the rest of the media. So when you try to repot and have it in a position, you need something to prop it up. Here I am using the pot which the media is in, and I will slowly put media and try to keep this stable while I repot. So this type of medium size I will avoid from adding. One or two can go, it's fine, but I will try to keep the top layer with small size medium as much as possible. So for that you can slowly pick it off. I just don't do that because I cannot take time. I need to show you the basics and be done with this video. So as you can see, all my neighbors are very loud, so this is the main reason I voice every video after taping it. So I will show another with cocoa husk as I promised, and I think this is done. And you can see the roots here. I can try to insert that, but even if you don't insert the top roots, it's fine, because the main stem is inside. The stem will root from everywhere, so therefore there's no need for you to worry that you should insert every root. mop it off with some pebbles. You can straighten it out like this after repotting, no problem, right? It will only stabilize. So I have a problem here which I will have to correct with media. Now it's correct. And I will add. So these pebbles should not overlap your plants, but one or two here and there is okay because this media is very airy, so there's no problem of rooting this. You are giving all the conditions it needs when it comes to potting media by using a mixture like this. So I think it's done now. I have added some leca over here, so it's fine. So as much as you use pebbles on top, you can further stabilize your plant inside the media if you are using leca inside. So I will add some more, and I have also given it some more moss around the roots to give it a balance between wet and dry. So the medium will remain wet and dry, and the air movement will be plenty. So the main thing about repotting Hoyas or orchids is there should be plenty of air movement around the roots for the roots to breathe, because the roots are very dainty. They tend to rot very quickly. Now this Dischidia I will be repotting using cocoa husk, and I have cut it into two because there is a gap on the stem where I can make two plants, and it's very long, so therefore this will be placed using cocoa husk. And here also, when I washed it and when I soaked it and I just dumped the whole bag into it and soaked it. So therefore when I am taking media for repotting, I have to be careful that I will only add particles and not, no, sorry, I will only add the pieces, clear pieces, because air movement is easy if the pieces you use are clear, and flushing also is very easy because then water can run through, taking all the debris out of the pot without any blockages. So cocoa husk, you can pack it in, no problem, nothing will happen to the roots will be breathing fine. The cocoa husk I'm using is very new, so therefore this can go on for an year without a problem. So you can see that I am choosing the smaller pieces for the top as usual, since I mixed in the other medium sized with small sizes at the bottom. This medium is very wet right now, so it will dry off very quickly, but due to the extreme water retentive quality in cocoa husk, you have to keep this out of water for some time until it dries. Once the roots get going, you don't have to worry, but still you have to be mindful that the media is drying up. So using the media, you see now everything has been potted up and flushed thoroughly. The medium sized lava and charcoal was placed at the bottom of the pot for aeration, and some pots also got the leca, and rest of it was small sized lava and charcoal. I also added leca in between here and there just to stabilize the roots. So therefore it's finally done, and I will show you each plant individually as to how I did. I first did this, and it was a bit hard to keep it in the pot, but guys, see, there are parts which shows the roots, and when the roots grow, I will see development here. So that's a clear indication that the plant is doing well. So this is the main reason I use transparent coffee cups, but there is no rule as to using this, that you must. So with extra ventilation, whichever the pot you plant, it will dry up. I just like seeing the clean look when it's all flushed out, and I can see what's happening inside the pot. I can see if there are any critters. So therefore I use coffee cups. And secondly, I chopped this into 3 parts and potted it. And I've also added a fern root in the middle of the pot to retain extra moisture. And there's fern root on top also. When I have potted in a total cocoa husk medium, I have not used roots, I mean the fern root, but I did that because I didn't need too much of moisture. I needed air movement. But fern root actually would dry up very faster than cocoa husk. So therefore this is one of my main medias, including the charcoal and the lava rock. This I think is some sort of a public calyx, or I don't know, the splashing is somewhat that. If anyone knows, let me know what this exactly is. This also got the same potting mixture, and you can clearly see I have added some leca here and there to give it extra ventilation. So now I know I have added fern root here and there for extra moisture retaining, mainly on the top layers, because I do not want the top layers to dry out. The reason that I put these are in 2 folds. One, where I can hold in the plant, and the second one, I can also retain some moisture. If this is covered in pebbles, you will be retaining more moisture. Then you do not need fern root in the middle, because you are anyway giving water up to a centimeter from the bottom, because you are growing it in a semi-hydro setup. So in a semi-hydro setup, because the water will be wicked up through the bottom of reservoir, you do not need to add fern root to the media. But however, you need a very strong top layer of pebbles or roots to let it stop from drying, because most of these places will be rooting, right? Some of you spray rooters to enhance root growth, so in that case the whole stem will have roots. I do not suggest that. But some Hoyas like Hoya kerrii will automatically have roots all over the stem because of its succulent stem. So apart from that, you should be very careful when you are growing and mixing different potting media. So these media here are very porous. Leca is very porous. Everything here is very porous and dries off very quickly, right? That is the main reason for me to use these three as my main potting mix, but I mainly use lava rock and charcoal, as you know by now, and here and there I will add some fern root. When you have potted like this, you actually do not need to grow this in a semi-hydro setup. That is the main lesson I'm teaching you here. Why? Because you have added fern root for moisture, right? So fern root is not the same as sphagnum moss. Sphagnum moss retains a lot of water, but fern root does not. Fern root, whatever the fern root retains, that will be dried off. So therefore I hope you can find this, but even if you don't worry, just to grow it with these three medium in a semi-hydro setup and you will be fine. So I will end this video now, since I showed you all the contents of all these 5 pots, and it's done now. So I see a gap here, the root is jutting out. I need to add some media over there. I will add this leca, right? And it's done now. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you learned something. If there are questions, please ask me. See you again with another video, most probably a Hoya highlight. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye. This is where I have decided to keep all of my propagations and newly repotted plants. You will see also some yellowing leaves on one of the recent repottings. This is natural, as the plant requires more energy to maintain all its structures from fertilizer as well as from the bottom oldest leaves while adapting to a new environment of my home and its media. So the bottom leaves will be dying off due to absorption of nutrients to the vine. The evaporation of the water in the tray will keep them cool from extreme humidity, even though the roots are not fully grown to absorb water from the reservoir. It is very important to keep all these in a wet and dry cycle and more towards the dry side until the roots establish and start growing on its own.